to another interview brought to you by Antichess Lore. Joining me today is legendary engine killer Tone. Not only was Tone number 3 on RTP's top 10 players, but he was also my greatest rival, my absolute favorite opponent of all time, someone I admire and respect the hell out of. Welcome, Tone, and thanks for coming.
All right, man. Glad to be here. And likewise, I definitely had a lot of great games, no doubt about it. Glad to be here, though.
So just jumping right in, my story of discovering Antichess by accident has been told a couple times. How were you introduced to Antichess, and what inspired you to become one of the best?
You know, what's funny is, so I heard your story and I heard Kex's story, and it's very similar. Like, played a lot of chess, like regular chess, and was decent at it, you know, I mean, but never anything spectacular. And on FICS, just a couple guys that I played some speed chess with ended up playing a little bit of that, and I just suicide on, you know, in there. I tried it and kind of liked it. I was like, yeah, this is kind of neat. And then once I started playing a little bit, I was like, I really enjoyed the tactics and enjoyed the way that the game plays out, and it just went from there. I mean, and on FICS ended up playing like 60,000 games of suicide. So definitely enjoyed it for a good number of years on there.
Was there a particular person that showed it to you, or you were just on?
I'm pretty sure there was, and I thought you might ask that, and I can't remember who it was. I remember playing some of the early players, but it wasn't until I played a little bit. I think I just kind of middled around and played random people, but I'm not exactly sure who it was that introduced me to it. But it was, but I really enjoyed it, and just right away, you know, and just went from there and started playing. And the community at that point had grown some on FICS. And so there were certainly some very good players and some theory and all that was out there. But, you know, but it kind of went from there. As far as becoming one of the best, I'll be honest with you, I laughed when I saw the video that you guys had me at number 3. I was like, really, I was genuinely shocked. I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then I had to, the worst part was having to explain it to my wife. I'd be like, you know, it's like, okay, so there's this game. It's not chess, but it's this other type of chess. And I played it on this server that doesn't really exist anymore. And I was pretty good at it, you know. But anyway, it was a total honor, though. I told FTP the same, or not FTP, RTP. I was like, you know, listen, man, thank you so much for all the kind words and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, explaining Antichess to people is kind of it's something. So I did the same thing with my wife, and then sometimes she'll tell her friends that I play Antichess for some reason, and then I have to explain to them what it is. It's kind of
right.
Funny thing. All right, well, chess this is kind of the opposite.
Exactly.
All right, so recently you had asked me if I played in the 01 World Championships on FICS in 2001.
Yeah.
And I figured we'd save this conversation for this particular interview. And I'm not actually sure if many people even know that this happened. I know that there's been talks about there was a tournament that was in Switzerland in person where people, some of the greats went and played. But I don't know if this is something that people are aware of. So my answer is yes, I did play in the 01 World Championships. And what I recall is that Mr. Pink invited me to play and said, hey, we're grabbing the top players. We want you to join and play. And I think it was the first time that I ever played a game where it was, you're going to play a series of games against one opponent based off of you need to schedule it and do it, as opposed to just showing up for a Swiss tournament and just knocking it all out. And it's all right, I'll play. That sounds good. And so then the matchups came out, and I got matched up with Pionier. And
that's a brutal matchup.
Yeah, so he's one of the top players. And the thing is, back then, I don't think I had ever played him before. I had never played him. I've only seen him.
He never played it.
Right. So he was 2,500, but he was always playing bug house with people, and I didn't see him. Yep. He was, I think 2,400 in almost every single every game. He's an amazing chess player. And I was
incredible.
that's who I get to play. And so I remember the series started and I was like, all right, well, I'll just try some of my traps. Maybe he's not super fast or something. So maybe I've got a chance if I'm just playing fast. And he had a response to every single one of my traps. And I don't remember what the score was, but like I got crushed. And then it was over. Like it was a single elimination kind of thing. And so I was like, all right, I guess I'm done. And so I don't even know that I saw a list of participants, who else was playing, or if there was like an update, like if somebody was sending some type of message that was saying, here are the standings. So tell me, like, I assume that you participated. How did you fare? And do you remember who else played and how it even ended?
So there were somewhere between 35 and 40 total players that played. And but people with low ratings, I mean, we let anybody play. I mean, it was just whoever wanted to play. But the players I specifically remember were, of course, Mr. Pink, yourself, Sandstrom, who was very good at 01. Damo, remember him? Damo?
Don't remember that.
Damo played. I think Ray Costa.
Yeah.
I think he might have played. I can't remember exactly. And so and I was trying to think if there's anybody else. And Pimoneer played, and I want to say that one of the other old guys played, like one of the 90s guys also played. Those are the only players I remember. And I remember them because I played Sandstrom in the semifinals and I didn't think I was going to win that. I did beat him though. And I played in the final and lost to Mr. Pink in the final. And so it was, but yeah, it did happen. And it was inspired. So I was actually invited to play in that in-person tournament.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I was, and actually tried to put together a situation to go. At the time, I was in, actually it's Veterans Day, so I wore my Navy shirt. I was in Navy flight school at the time, and in the military, they wouldn't let me leave for, a week or whatever. And so I couldn't go. I wanted to, but the 01 tournament was kind of inspired by that they had done that. We're like, well, let's do it for that, and but yeah, I do remember it, and it was a lot of fun actually. And I remember we tried to get one together like the next year, and it just didn't come together. But anyway, it was a lot of fun.
Well, that's awesome story.
Yeah,
that's cool. So I guess my next question is just kind of like, did you have any like influences for anti-chess, or like people that you looked up to? And then also, like a follow up to that, who do you think the toughest opponents on FICS were back when you were playing? For
sure. So I wrote them down. Pimoneer.
Yeah.
That guy, like you described it well. The guy was insane chess player. I mean, every variant. He's the only person on FICS of all the years I was on FICS that was 2200 or above in every variant, every single one. I was like, and not just 22 is the low.
Yeah.
I mean, he was Bughouse. He was like 2,800 and like, Lightning 2,500 and Suicide. He's the only human player. There might have been some random guy that like farmed a computer, but the only human player that got to 2,700 in Suicide. And he did. If you look at his high rating on FICS, it's like 27, 25 or something like that. So he was obviously a guy I was like, this dude is unreal. And like, I watched him play whenever he played, but he didn't, like you said, he didn't play very much. Like he played on House and all these others, but when he did play, he was darn good. I actually think he lost to Sandstrom in the 01 championship.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he lost to Sandstrom. Then Bill TV, just because he was kind of like a real early theory guy. Like he was really into theory. And I remember watching him, and he was the guy that, kept all his pieces and was really developing openings back in the late 90s and stuff, but he just stopped kind of playing around 01. And then for me, it was all about, like it was like speed chess, man, like playing faster. I had a lot of respect for guys that could play speed and play intelligently. And so it was like Sandstrom, Mr. Pink, yourself, and Moltani. Those are the guys. Yeah. You put us in a group and play, and that's going to be some good games, and that was a lot of fun playing with those guys for sure. And yeah, those were pretty much the players that really stood out, I think. And I hope I'm not leaving somebody out. Of course, I have a lot of guys, but
yeah, no, you're good. And I've got like I've got a few small other ones, like if you remember, okay.
Sure.
I think that he might have been the person that actually played my very first game again.
Okay.
And then Ziba was another one that was super strong that played 01.
Oh, he's on my. I'm sorry, he's on my list. Yeah, Zip is on my list. He was to me the original great 01 player because he was better. No offense to OK, but he was better than OK. He was better than Sandstrom. Well, about the same as Sandstrom, but he was really good. Yeah,
right. And I think that I feel like Ziba and OK had some type of like rivalry going where like I would watch them play, and I think they played hundreds and hundreds of games against each other, and I would just watch them play. Like, oh man, these guys are fast. And like Ziba definitely had the edge on him.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, and a few other names I was thinking of, like Wanderer Tom.
I remember him.
I played a lot of games with. I don't know if you remember Crosscheck.
Well, he's on Lead Chess now, right?
Yeah. Dreadful on
yeah.
And I might have played. He's probably the guy that I played the most in my lifetime. So like maybe we played 1,000 games on FICS back in the day, and now I think we're at another 1,400 games so far on
That's great.
But one thing I was going to point out was that you talked about the speed chess and playing fast, but also playing well. And I want to point out a little bit of a difference between FICS and lead chess. So when we played 01, you started with 10 seconds on your clock, and then you got the 1 increment. Where on lead chess, you start with 3 seconds on your clock, and then you get the increment. And we kind of see so it's kind of considered hyper on lead chess, and you get like the half O in the 0-1 games. And a lot of people kind of look down on the hyper a little bit, like, all right, these people are just trying to flag you,
right?
And that's it. And so, like, I agree that, like, all right, I'm not really interested in playing a game where we're just going to try to, like, if my opponent's just trying to run me out of time and just kind of shifting this game back and forth, and just, the classic BB7, and I'm going to move my rooks back and forth and try to run me out of time. But like when we were playing 01, that 10 seconds gave it enough time. We played like a complete legitimate game almost every single time. Like, and obviously there's going to be situations where you get flagged where like, oh, I'm in a tough spot and I got to think of something and I panic and you don't come up with anything, or you make a poor move and then you lose. I think that's a little bit of the difference, like that maybe wasn't clarified in previous videos. Like when we were playing 01, it was slightly more time than the hyper, which was still a fast game. And I kind of relate it to like 02 on the chess is probably the closest thing, because you're starting with the 3 seconds and with the 2 second increment. I still feel like it's a fast game. Like you're still playing legitimate games where you're trying to beat the other person. So,
absolutely. Did you ever know on FICS the Blob? He wasn't a suicide player. He was like, he played like 1,000,000 1-0 lightning games.
Oh, really?
Okay.
The name sounds familiar, but I don't.
It was, so he had like one of the lowest RDs at one point, like his rating deviation. He got down to like 12.0 at one point because he played like for like 27 straight out or something ridiculous. But he said once he used to watch me sometimes play suicide for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And he was a big 1-0 player. And he said to me, one of the funniest quotes, he said to me, he just wrote me, he goes, "There's something pure about 01." Which I loved. I was like, yeah, exactly. Because he was like, I appreciate, and it's what you just said, because it's 10 seconds, but it's just 1 second added. Mm-hmm. So you're under time pressure in a way. I think it's different from, to me, like 0-2, because 2 second increment, if you make 5 or 6 quick moves, you've got 12, 14, and then you're adding on the clock at that point, which is fine. It's still a good game. I'm not suggesting it's not, but to me, that is not the same challenge as the 1 second increment. And being at 10 seconds and adding 1, fine, you fly through your opening, you have 14 or 15 seconds on the clock, maybe. Yeah. And then, it starts to come down from there, but it's just a different game. But 01 with 10 seconds, it was a lot of fun. It's a great time control.
All right, so now fast forward a little bit to the present date. So you joined Lead Chess a couple months back.
Yeah.
Working on shaking off the rust and whatnot. How do you think Lee Chess compares to FICS, both on the interface perspective and like the competition?
Yeah. Well, okay. So as far as interface, I mean, there's zero like comparison in terms of, I mean, Lee Chess is a million times better in terms of, oh, I mean, in every way, which is expected, right?
Yeah. Sure.
I mean, you and I joined FICS the same year, by the way. I watched your video, of course, 1997. All right. So, I mean, it was like ancient stuff, and they didn't really change it very much. I mean, it stayed. I think today, if you go on there, it's the same. You know, it's like you were saying with all these little codes you have to. I mean, it's just old school, you know, and like but it worked.
Yep.
Once you figured all that stuff out, you could play chess and have a good time and all this sort of stuff. It was fine. But Lee Chess is so much better. You know, I mean, it's such a great setup. And you know, as far as the competition, I think that comes and goes in ways. Clearly, COVID has, you know, had an effect on that, like in terms of getting people to sit down and just play chess for, you know, months at a time and get good at it and exposed to the game. And then there's this, you know, that TV show or Netflix show that got people more interested in chess and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's like you have more people playing, and I think that's good. You have stockfish, you have all these resources, so someone can get good pretty quickly because you don't have to sit there and muddle around in openings. You can actually be like, well, how do I do this? And sit there. If you sit there for 3 hours of stockfish, you can probably figure out 3 or 4 openings pretty well. Yeah. We didn't have that, you know, and so the competition, I think, is in some ways better in that way. I love what you said in your video. You're like, just go off theory, you know, like I go off theory as fast as I can because, like, you know, because lots of people can memorize openings and stuff, but it's one thing to be able to then actually execute, you know, an actual middle game and an end game and do all that kind of stuff, then throw in time pressure and see whether you can do it, you know, and so, but I love the competition and I love the community. Like on Lee Chess, I love that Lee Chess has made it's important, it's a priority to the server clearly that it's a congenial environment. You know, they are zero tolerance. I mean, like, you know, no trash talk, no cursing, none of that stuff. It's like, I like that. I mean, it's rather, let's just be on there and have a good time and be friendly and let's just have a, you know, let's play. There was a lot of trash talk on FICS, to be frank. And I will fully admit that 22-year-old me was pretty, I was pretty, yeah, I may have participated in some of that, but from time to time. So, yeah, and actually, I'll say it. Do you know that Crosscheck censored me, and I didn't hear from him? I did not talk to him until he censored me in like 2006 or 5, right after a series we had, and I said something just ridiculous to him, and he was just like, you know what, dude, I'm done. And he literally censored me. I tried to get people to like talk to him and be like, dude, just it's been years, like uncensor, but he wouldn't. And so when I came on Lee Chess. And I found out it was him, and I was like, I hope he doesn't think I'm a jerk, you know, like it was so funny. And so he was all excited to talk to me. So it was cool. I was like, so FICS was a little different in that way. It was a little saucy. And Lee Chess isn't, and I it's great. It's much better to be congenial and just have a good sort of sportsman-like environment. But
yeah, for sure. I love the community on Lee Chess. I think that I've developed a lot of good friendships over the years where it's like, all right, I've gotten to know these people pretty well, and it's like somebody like I would have them over for dinner and stuff like that. It was like these are friends, and yes, they're on different parts of the world. So
it's really cool. Even in the short time I've been on there, it's just, I mean, already talking to people, it's just great group.
Yeah. All right, so then.
Oh, actually, let me say one more thing.
Yeah.
So there's one thing that you and I, the type of chess that we played, speed, 01, all that kind of stuff, that I think I would have loved when I was 22, but I don't exactly like it as much now. But I love on Lee Chess is the Berserk.
Oh.
I just think I would have, if you'd given me 10 seconds, I would have zerked. Like when I was 22, I would have been like, I don't need it. I'll take the points. So, you know, like I love that. I would have been 100% Zerk every time. Like, oh, how much time do I have? 3 seconds? I'll go to minute. I'll go to second and a half. Zerk it. I mean, like, it's just, I think like Kex, I love that Kex and Tugger just Zerk all the time. And they're like, we've got to get norms while we do 100% Zerk. You know, it's like, as if the game isn't hard enough, let's just make it even harder. Like, you know, I love that stuff. I think that's great.
All right. So you were able to defeat some of the top rated engines. So we want to go over how you're able to accomplish that. So what were your strategies, tactics in order to do that? So if you want to give us some tips on how do you beat engines,
right?
We're gonna jump into some games here with that an example.
Yeah.
Really able to accomplish.
Yeah. So, so there's beating engines, and then there's beating engines at speed. Okay. So what I found is that even engines are susceptible to time. So if they move faster, they are going to they can make mistakes. Okay. Now they're not going to, they typically don't make the kind of mistakes we make under time pressure, but they're at least not, they're a watered down version of their long, time control self. And the key things, I wrote them down actually, like the key things I found to defeating them is no queen races. Never, ever, ever allow it to get into a queen race. You might be able to pull off a queen rook race where you have the queen. Okay. But if you go into a queen rook race and you have the rook, you're done. You're going to lose the game. You may as well just resign. It's over. If you get into a queen race, you probably should just resign, because for us, the queen race is this infinite complication that you have to work out. The computer is going to work it out. Yep. Like it's going to figure it out, and you're going to lose. I mean, it's like, so never do that. You should actually stay on theory. Like, don't try to stay on theory and simplify. Trade the pieces down. Obviously, if you can get a piece advantage, that's great. But you should be trying to simplify the game, because the computer, when it has less pieces and you have sort of equal pieces and that kind of stuff, I found has a little more trouble creating tougher positions. And it's easy for you because your mind can keep up with,
right? Okay,
like this is not that difficult a position, you're not going to win every time. Trust me. I lost 95% of the time. Okay. Right. But if you're going to win that 5% against really top engines, you have to do those things. And so if you generally stay on theory, you kind of simplify it, you avoid all queen rook races, queen races, all that kind of stuff. Like you have a chance. Yeah, I mean, that's really all it can do. I mean, beating the top engines though, you're going to lose most of the time. Like even doing all the best you can, you're still going to lose most of it, especially playing with 1-0, like no increment, 1-0. Like that's what I did. And it's actually how I got a little better, or I think that's how I improved my game. Is I played 1-0 against the best of the best. Like I didn't play against these like middling computers that make mistakes all the time. I played the ones that were just death machines, that just were awful to play. Yeah. But they make you better, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think I defeated any of those top engines. I think, I don't know that I did. So I'm either at 100% loss rate against the engines, or maybe 99.9. Like I feel like I might have snuck a few against. I don't know if you remember. I think it was like Sorted.
Yep.
And there was like two different versions of him. They would like dumb him down so that he would like.
Was it Nil Attack and Sorted?
I think so, and I can't remember which one. There was one that occasionally would be easier and you could beat him.
Oh, Sorted and Catnail. Was it Sorted and Cat? Remember, Catnail was like that goofy one that just made mistakes all the time on purpose, and like.
Yeah, but it almost it was like Catnail would like trap you. It would like let you win like 5 or 6 games in a row, and you'd like get all excited and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna farm this engine," and then all of a sudden it would like turn itself on and be like, "All right, now I'm gonna start beating you and take your points." Right. I felt like that was the trap.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't play Catnail hardly ever. Like I felt like that made you worse, because it was just it was so weird the way it played, and it made mistakes purposely. But then if it found a win, it would do it. And stuff. It was so crazy. It was like that was sort of difficult to play. But
interesting way to play. All right, so let's jump into the games.
Sure.